What's up, guys? So for my first written piece for Scratch.golf, which is a new website, it's up, you gotta go check it out. I handed out year-end awards.
What was that?
I've been doing this for a long time. It's my favorite way, personally, to reminisce on the year. Most of the good stuff's behind us.
I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
And there's always stuff that I forget, and I basically read golf Twitter for a whole year.
I'm just trying to get to my tee time.
And I'm reminded of all these wild, incredible things that happen in our sport. Let's go through it. We've got 8 categories. We're going to do nominees and then winners. Yeah, grab a drink, light up whatever's legal in your state, and let's talk about some golf. Our first category is Player of the Year, and the nominees, well, there are only 2. The first one, we'll start with Xander Schauffele. So he won 2 majors. If you win 2 majors in a year, it does not happen very often. Last guy to do it was Brooks Koepka in 2018. Before that, Jordan Spieth in 2015. Anytime you win 2 majors, you're in the Player of the Year conversation. And also, Xander was extremely consistent beyond just the majors. He had 20 top 25s in 22 starts and 15 top 10s in 22 starts. So it wasn't like he just showed up 2 weeks, was incredible, and then was never heard from again. He was legitimately the second best player all year, and 9 times out of 10, he would be the Player of the Year. But this was that 1 out of 10. We had something remarkable happen this year, and it was Scottie Scheffler. He was a big, hairy American winning machine all year. Remember, before he started winning, the narrative was he just couldn't putt, and it was the same thing every single week. It was like he'd be way up there in ball striking stats, but then his putting would keep him from contending, and then it clicked. You know, working with Phil Kenyon for a really long time, and it finally clicked at Bay Hill.
And Scottie Scheffler is the king of Bay Hill again.
He was in contention, and he putted beautifully on Sunday. And he shot bogey-free, I believe it was 66, and he won the tournament. And he goes across Florida, wins the Players' Championship, and then he started really rolling. 7 wins in total. That's not including the Tour Championship because he didn't shoot the lowest score. It's a net competition. But all 7 of those tournaments were big tournaments. It was Bay Hill, Players, Masters, RBC Heritage, Memorial, Travelers, and the Olympics. Those are all like elevated events or elevated event fields. You know, the guy didn't miss a single cut. He had 16 top 10s in 19 starts, won the gold medal. Yes, Xander won more majors. 2 is more than 1, but in every statistical category and the eye test and just feeling this year in golf, this was Scottie's year. He's our Player of the Year. And our nominees for Round of the Year are Scottie Scheffler shoots 8 under 64 on Sunday of the Players' Championship to win the tournament by a single shot. He starts the day 4 shots behind. It was Wyndham Clark and Xander Schauffele. Then Brian Harman made a run. He hooped a wedge on the 4th hole for an eagle. Just played basically a perfect round of golf, posts a number, and then the guys couldn't equal it. And that's really, that week is when the year of Scottie truly began. Xander Schauffele shoots 65 on Sunday to win the Open Championship, his 2nd major, and he was unflappable all weekend. The weather was horrendous. There were a bunch of guys there with a chance. He had Billy Horschel playing his heart out, Justin Rose with the home crowd, Shane Lowry like fist pumping all the time. And then you had Xander Schauffele, who didn't even look outside his tunnel vision the entire week. He was so stoic, he was so calm, and he played incredible, incredible golf that weekend. I believe it was 69-65 to win by a couple, and just in total control. It was amazing how the narrative flipped from early in the year, it was Xander can't close, to you watch the way he played that weekend at the Open Championship, and you could argue like he's become one of the best closers. Hideki Matsuyama shoots 62, ties the course record to win the Genesis Invitational at Riviera. Very cool course record to have, to do it on Sunday of the Genesis. And also, I just remember on the back 9 that week, I think it was 14 and 15, he kept on hitting these shots and doing the Hideki thing where, you know, he does one hand finish and then it would go like 8 inches from the hole, and then the next one went 6 inches from the hole. So it might not look pretty if you're looking at Hideki, but if you look at the golf ball, it was an unbelievable round of golf. 62, Riviera is not an easy golf course. Cristobal del Solar on the Korn Ferry Tour becomes the first player in a PGA Tour sanctioned event to shoot 57. Now, I will say everyone and their mother shot under 60 on the Korn Ferry Tour this year. If you didn't break 60 on the Korn Ferry Tour this year, you might be a little bit of a loser. But the guy shot 57, 13 under par, was at 8,000 feet, but you still got to make the putts. You still got to make all those birdies. 13 under par. Didn't end up winning the tournament. He finished 5th. Our winner is Scottie Scheffler, his 62 at Le Golf National to win the gold medal. And part of this is just a testament to how incredible the Olympics were this year. So golf has a 112-year absence from the Olympics. It comes back in 2016 in Rio, and all the top guys skip. It was lame then. It's still lame. A lot of them blamed Zika, but really it was because it was in the middle of a super crowded schedule. The PGA was still in August at that time, and no one really knew what winning a gold medal meant in the game. So a lot of the top guys didn't play. Then 5 years later, it's in Tokyo. It's the pandemic. It's a mess. There's no Olympic Village, no fans. Again, a lot of the top guys don't play. This year in Paris felt like the first year of like the true Olympics is back because everyone who was qualified to play played. No one skipped it. It was in Paris, a world-class city. Le Golf National, a golf course that is obviously familiar from the Ryder Cup, and it was epic. The tournament itself, you had Rory near the top. You had John Rahm was in control and then made a mess. Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki Matsuyama, and Scottie. It was fitting that Scottie won. This was after all the majors. And so for him to add that one more big blue chip trophy for this year, it was very deserved. He broke down in tears on the medal stand afterwards because there's nothing like representing your country. And I think a lot of the guys, all of the top players who played came back saying that. Like, this was a special tournament. So I'm really excited about the Olympics and its future in our sport. And the nominees for Shot of the Year are Scottie Scheffler hoops a wedge, makes eagle on the 4th hole Sunday of the Players' Championship. It's really kick-started the round, ends up shooting 64, wins it by a single shot. We got Chris Kirk right at the beginning of the year. Century Tournament of Champions, hits a 5-iron on 17 to about this far to essentially clinch the tournament. We got 2 from Pinehurst. First, saw at the gala, chip in on number 15. This was a disgusting chip. And this was what was so great about Pinehurst that week. Because of the way it was set up, it lended itself to so many different shots. And because the grass was mowed so tight around the greens, it gave guys a bunch of different options. You hit it in the back foot, it kind of rides up a slot, rolls to the left, goes in the side door. Just the shot values that week were out of control, excellent. We've got Ludwig Aubert, fairway wood into number 11. This is just a personal one that I saw. I think it was on Saturday. It was just the highest launched fairway wood I've ever seen. It was 294 yards. He hit 7 wood, back left pin. Somehow managed to carry a bunker in front of the green, land on the green, and still hold the green. It was the most incredible shot I'd ever seen. And so it gets a spot on this list because this is my list. So it gets a spot. Our winner should be no surprise. It's Bryson DeChambeau, the bunker shot on 18 that set up the par to win the U.S. Open. There's no bigger compliment in our sport than you hit a shot that's so famous and so important that whenever anyone gets the same shot in their amateur game, they immediately talk about your shot. So if you play golf now and you have like a 60-yard bunker shot, everyone's like, let's see your Bryson. Let's see your Bryson. It's that iconic. He needs a par to win the U.S. Open. He's got 55 yards. It's everyone's worst nightmare of a bunker shot. Ask anyone what's the hardest shot in golf. They'll say it's basically that shot. You don't want to leave it short and give yourself 30 feet. And if you hit it long of the green, you're absolutely dead. And you know a par wins the U.S. Open. And he's got those super long wedges because they're all the same length. It's like the length of a 7-iron. I don't even know how he pulled it off, but he did. He did. And he earned that U.S. Open victory. And that was a shot that gave it to him. So a no-brainer for Shot of the Year. And the nominees for Rookie of the Year are Matthew Pavone, 31-year-old from France. What a rise this guy has had. So he was playing on the European Tour for a bunch of years, solid, but not like a spectacular career. He gets hot toward the tail end of the 2023 season, gets his tour card by being one of the top 10 guys on the DP World Tour, and then fast start on the PGA Tour. He wins Torrey Pines, then finishes 3rd at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the elevated event at Pebble Beach, and he's off and running. He made like 5-something million this year, got to East Lake, and now, at 31 years old, he's playing the best golf of his life, and he's got a serious chance to make the Ryder Cup team this year. We got Jake Knapp, all-time vibes guy. This guy jumped off the screen. Just didn't look like your prototypical PGA Tour pro. He's like super buff. He's got the long flowing blonde hair and then this golf swing that is like part John Daly, part Freddie Couples. It's long, it's languid, but he also smashes. He's one of the longest guys out there. Wins early in the year in Mexico. Doesn't quite keep it up the rest of the year. He actually didn't finish in the top 50, so he's not into the elevated events next year, guaranteed. So room for improvement, but a great rookie season nonetheless. And then our winner is Nick Dunlap. And I think his achievement earlier this year has flown under the radar a little bit. It was a big story when it happened, but it was NFC Championship that same weekend. I remember that. So maybe people didn't appreciate it enough. The first amateur to win on the PGA Tour since Phil Mickelson in 1993. So I think it was 31 years. And he did it by going toe-to-toe and really outplaying Sam Burns down the stretch. So that's not a nobody. Guys played in President's Cup, played in Ryder Cups. So what an achievement. And that left him with a really difficult choice. You go back to Alabama, be on the golf team, or turn professional, get a bunch of money for turning professional, already have your PGA Tour card, already be in the winners category, already be into the majors. Not that tough of a decision. He turned pro. His game dropped a level after that for the first couple months, which is understandable. He wasn't planning to turn pro at that point. So he just went from, oh, I'm going to play a PGA Tour event on an invite to, okay, now I guess I'm doing this full time now. But started playing stronger toward the end of the year and won again. He's got 2 wins. He won the Barracuda, which was played opposite the Open Championship. So he's got 2 wins. He's 20 years old. And the nominees for most compelling tournament of the year, basically, what was the best watch? Scottie Scheffler emerges from a loaded leaderboard to win the gold medal at Le Golf National in Paris. The Olympics were epic this year. You had all the stars were there. It was so cool. It was seeing everyone in their colors. So fitting for Scottie to win in the end. This was just epic, epic television. More Scottie. There's a lot of Scottie on this list. The guy won a lot of tournaments. He holds off his little brother, Tom Kim, who he's really taken under his wing in Dallas. They go toe-to-toe at the Travelers. It's interrupted on the 18th green by a Just Stop Oil protest. Very strange situation there. Scottie ends up winning, but this was probably the best mono-y-mono battle of the year. Scottie Scheffler versus Tom Kim again, but this time it got a little testy. It was at the President's Cup. And again, these two, they play together at home. They go at it all the time. Tom Kim makes a putt. He's trying to get his team going. He's hooting and hollering. He's going crazy. And then Scottie, the crazy part was Scottie responded. You never see Scottie show any type of real emotion on the golf course.
What was that?
You just never see that from Scottie. That's what's so great about these team competitions. They bring out sides of these guys that you never see when they're playing their own ball. We got a live tournament in here. It was Mayakoba, their first event of the year. You had Sergio Garcia and Joaquin Niemann. A playoff basically under the lights. I think they had to get the scoreboards around to make sure there was enough light for them to finish. But Joaquin's looked up to Sergio for his entire life. The two of them going toe-to-toe. The crowd was pretty good. I remember that being a really, really fun watch. Our winner, though, again, no surprise, Bryson defeats Rory in unbelievably dramatic fashion. There was just so much on the line that day. Rory trying to win his first major in a decade, and he has the mojo. He's making those putts that he didn't make at LACC, that he didn't make at St. Andrews. You think he's got the lead. He's finally going to do it. And then he misses 2 just ridiculously short putts, really 1 ridiculously short putt on 16, and then a very difficult, but also pretty short putt on 18. And then you've got Bryson, who's coming off the near miss in the PGA Championship, and he's kind of the face of this YouTube golf next wave. You know, he's gone to live. He's gotten way more popular. It's Bryson 2.0. Two titans going to battle at Pinehurst #2, playing perfect, playing just like a U.S. Open should. The weather's perfect. It was just an incredible afternoon. And then the way that it happened, Rory crumbles, Bryson holds steady. And then I think, you know, the way they acted afterward, you got Bryson is ecstatic. He is staying late into the night, letting everyone touch the trophy. Meanwhile, Rory speeds off, doesn't do media, doesn't talk to a single person. Bryson is on top of the world and Rory's crestfallen. And that is sport at its best. And that was the best golf tournament of 2024. Our next award is going to be Rules Dispute of the Year. So, like it sounds, what was the juiciest rules dispute? Or what was the best rules moment? All right. We got Jordan Spieth back in February, disqualified from the Genesis Invitational for having to go to the bathroom. I think that was the long and the short of it. He signed an incorrect scorecard. He realized it 15 minutes later, but it was too late. He had already signed, and the penalty for that is DQ. And a lot of guys weren't happy about this because there's been all this talk about growing the product and how can we make things better. And having one of your biggest draws be disqualified from a big tournament for the weekend for an honest mistake that was easily fixable doesn't seem like a great move for the product. And it's also a question of why in 2024, no other sport do they keep their own score? It's 2024. The entire course, every shot is recorded and analyzed. You can track everything. Live odds are done right away. So there's so much data out there. Do we really need guys to be keeping their own scores in 2024? It was an interesting conversation that came from that topic. Our next nominee is Peter Malnati. He got such a lucky break when he won the Valspar Championship earlier this year. It's not his fault. You expect guys to take advantage of the rules. That's what you do as a professional golfer. But this one was particularly, consequential because he ended up winning the tournament. It's a 16th hole on Sunday. He pulls his approach shot. It lands on the green and then trickles through and nestles down in a really gnarly lie in the rough. It looked like it was going to be really tricky up and down, back down the hill. The greens were really fast. But he found a sprinkler head close enough to his ball to get a free drop. And, the rules there is no closer to the hole, but you're allowed to move it to a better lie. So he took it from this horrible lie in the rough, then drops it on the fringe, basically on the green, and 2 putts for par, ends up winning the tournament. Again, you don't blame the guy for taking advantage of the rules, but that just seems like a crazy rule. It's crazy that you're able to pick your ball up from a terrible lie in the rough and drop it on the fringe free of charge because of a sprinkler head. Our next nominee, the guy who found Shane Lowry's ball on the 11th hole on Saturday of the Open Championship at Royal Troon. Now, you might think that's a good thing, right? Don't we want people to find errant golf balls? Not in this situation. So Shane pulls his second shot so badly, it's so far left, and the rough over there is so bad, he doesn't even bother. He doesn't even want to find it, because if he finds it, then he's obligated to play it. So he chooses not to go over there. A fan, though, did go over there and finds his ball. So his plan was to just take a lost ball, take his stroke and distance, and be hitting 4 from the fairway or 4 from an easier lie than over there. But the fan finds his ball, and by rule, whether the player wants to find the ball or not, if the ball is found, you have to play it. So that ball was found, it was in play. He wound up making double bogey. Just a really weird rule situation. Like, the guy didn't want to find the ball, but it doesn't matter. The ball will find you. Our next nominee, Matt Kuchar, for taking his ball and going home. It's basically what he did. It was the Wyndham Championship, Sunday afternoon. They've played 35 holes already, trying to finish the tournament before dark so people don't have to come back on Monday. There was rain that week. The schedule was a mess. It looks like they're going to do it. They get the final group, which is Kuchar and Max Grazerman, to the 18th hole. They both hit their tee shots. Grazerman's still in contention. Kuchar's not. He's outside the top 10. So Grazerman finishes out. He ends up not winning. Kuchar marks his ball, makes everybody come back on Monday morning for him to play half a hole when he wasn't even in contention. He made par. He finished tied for 12th. And he said afterwards, this was kind of bizarre, he said that he was trying to send a message to Max Grazerman, like, it's important that you finish. Don't let them bully you into finishing in the dark. But Grazerman said he was not aware of that. Kuchar never said anything. And it was just another one of those Matt Kuchar moments where you're like, why, you seem to understand why it's wrong pretty quickly thereafter. He apologized. So why do it in the first place?
Bizarro. Never happened to me before.
Our next nominee, Joel Damon. He was penalized 4 shots for having an extra 4-iron in his bag during the fall season. And the best part of this was, like, in typical Joel fashion, he had no idea how it got there.
I would like to blame Gino. That'd be the easy thing to do, but it's not actually his fault either. I played Tuesday and Wednesday out here. We didn't see it in there. It was an extra 4-iron. So I had 2 4-irons in the bag.
One of the reasons why people love Joel so much, he's so relatable. He's basically like if your buddy played on the PGA Tour.
It sucks.
And I think we're all stoked that he finished 125th with that 64 on Sunday at the RSM to lock up his card for 25.
If you play golf long enough, weird stuff's going to happen out here.
But our winner is Saw at the Gala. Not because this was particularly juicy, but this was kind of like everything that golf is about. Everything that's good about golf. It's the 3rd round of the Tour Championship. He's way up there. He's playing great. 3rd hole, hits it in a bunker, hits a shot out of the bunker. No one notices anything, but Saw says, I think I moved the sand. I think I moved the sand. He wasn't 100% sure. They look at the replay. You can't necessarily see the sand move. His caddy didn't see the sand move. No one else saw the sand move. But Saw felt it, and the player always knows, and so he called a 2-shot penalty on himself. It ended up costing him $2.5 million. He finished 3rd in the FedEx Cup. Without that penalty, he would have finished and tied for 2nd. But Saw's got plenty of money, and he'll continue to make plenty of more money. But there's no price that you can put on a clean conscience. And the golfer always knows. And calling penalties on yourself, even when it ends up costing you $2.5 million, that's what golf is all about. It's a huge part of our game. It's honor. It's cool. And the nominees for Feel Good Moment of the Year are Ronald Rugumayo, back in February, makes the cut in the Magical Kenya Open and becomes the first player from Kenya ever to make the cut in a DP World Tour event. This was fantastic, and he birdied the last hole to do it, made it on the number. This performance went viral, got him some more invites, allowed him to leave Africa for the first time, played some tournaments in Europe, practiced next to guys that he grew up idolizing. It was just an awesome story. This was an amazing one at Augusta. So Tommy Fleetwood's normal caddy, Ian Finnis, was out for a while this year with an illness. It eventually required open heart surgery. So he was not able to caddy at the Masters. So instead of going for another, maybe a past caddy or another caddy on tour, Tommy Fleetwood opted to go with Gray Moore on the bag that week, a local caddies at Augusta National. Tommy had known him from his time at the club, not outside the Masters. You got to use a club caddy when you go. So he taps Gray Moore to come fill in. He has his best Masters ever. He finishes tied for 3rd, makes over $1 million, and assuming the standard pay, that means that Gray Moore made over $80,000 for 1 week of work. So that's not bad for a fill-in caddy.
How's Gray doing?
Awesome.
Also a happy ending because Finno, as he's known, Ian Finnis on tour, was back by the Open Championship. So just happy days all around there.
I would like to welcome Neil Shipley to the interview room for the first time.
We're staying at Augusta this one. Neil Shipley, a senior at Ohio State. He's very upset after shooting 80 on Saturday of the Masters. despite making the cut. He didn't play his best. He's not feeling good until he figures out who he's going to play with on Sunday. You guessed it, Tiger Woods. Tiger was in pain, was not playing well. But for as long as he lives, Neil Shipley will be able to tell his grandchildren that he played with and beat Tiger Woods on Sunday at Augusta National. The first of 2 nominations in this category for Robert McIntyre. The guy was a tear-producing machine this year. He won the Scottish Open on home soil, became the first Scot since Colin Montgomerie in 1999 to win it. And it was just 1 year after Rory McIlroy broke his heart in the Scottish Open. Rory birdied the last hole to beat Bobby Mack by 1. So he gets redemption the next year. He becomes a national hero. And everyone knows how much Scotland means to Bob McIntyre. Oban, where he's from, he maintains a really fierce connection to that place. He still lives there. He tried out the Florida thing when he got his PGA Tour card. He was just really homesick. And he loves being in Oban because he feels like people don't treat him like Robert McIntyre, the golfer. They just treat him like a normal guy. So he's moved back to Scotland, always talks about how important it is. Like, that's the tournament he wants to win. And he wins it by making a 22-footer for birdie on the last hole. It was straight out of a storybook. Our winner is Robert McIntyre. You get 2 nominations, you're probably going to win. But this was incredible. He won his first PGA Tour event, the Canadian Open, with his dad on the bag. His dad, Dougie, was filling in. He needed a caddy, so he called his dad, who's a greenskeeper back home. He flew over, and he saw that life-changing moment up close. And this one really resonated with me because I feel like for probably a lot of you watching too, like, golf is just, it's what me and my dad do. Like, it's a huge part of our relationship. I have such fond memories of, as a child, and even now, just getting to spend quality time outside together, away from work, away from school, away from technology, and just hang out. And I can't even imagine having that relationship and having that experience of winning your first PGA Tour event, winning on the best tour in the world with your dad right there. I mean, they were both super emotional afterwards, and how could you not be?
I'm a grass cutter. No, a caddy. Sorry. Oh, a caddy. Yeah, honestly, it's unbelievable.
And the nominees for what the fuck moment of the year are Rory McIlroy speeding out of Pinehurst after a heartbreaking loss to Bryson DeChambeau in the US Open. There was actually a little bit of a skid noise. That's how fast he drove out of the parking lot. Didn't stop to do media. The media freaked out about this. Would you want to stop to do media after you had that humiliating moment? But I remember when that video came out, I was like, Rory's already gone. Rory left. Ambulances and journalists congregate outside the Riviera Country Club clubhouse for an apparently sick Tiger Woods. Anytime there's an ambulance and Tiger Woods, you get very, very nervous. So I remember we were all standing there. There was rumors that he was going to the hospital. There was food poisoning. There's some ambulances that come by. No one knows what's going on. Probably 40 minutes. He never came out that door. He just never came out. We're just standing outside a door here. The guy's not going to come out.
Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden debate their handicaps during the presidential debate. I think it was Joe Biden said that he got down to a 6 when he was vice president. Trump was like, absolutely no chance. I've seen you swing. I think he challenged him to a match. I'm not sure how it ended, but I'm sitting there watching the presidential debate, and they start talking about golf. And part of me is very excited, but part of me is also kind of concerned.
What is going on here? Trick shots, baby. Why not?
A bunch of influencers and content creators play East Lake on the eve of the Tour Championship. This was the Creator Classic, first ever. PGA Tour really embraced YouTube golf. They had this tournament of all these YouTubers on Wednesday afternoon, right before the tournament itself started. And I just remember watching like Fat Perez warm up next to Tommy Fleetwood. And I'm thinking, man, YouTube golf has come a long way. Just Stop Oil protesters on the 18th green of the Travelers Championship. They disrupted what was actually a really good battle between Scottie Scheffler and Tom Kim. So I'm upset that they disrupted that battle. They shouldn't have done that. Keegan Bradley named Ryder Cup captain out of absolutely nowhere. Not even Keegan knew that he was under consideration at all until they called him and told him that the job was his.
I didn't have one conversation with anybody about this until I was told I was the captain.
It was completely out of left field. It was definitely a what the fuck moment. But looking back on it, I think everyone's pretty fired up that it happened. Our winner in a runaway, but not from the law, is Scottie Scheffler getting arrested in Louisville on Friday morning of the PGA Championship. Let's just zoom out for a second. Scottie Scheffler was the reigning Masters champion. He just had a baby like 4 days ago. Number 1 player in the world. He's right in position at another major championship. Gets arrested. It's important to remember that the reason that there was chaos in front of the golf course that day was someone died. There was a horrible rainstorm and a volunteer trying to get to the golf course was killed in a car accident. That's horrible. But what happened after is just incredibly, incredibly surreal. there were 156 players in the field that week. If you had to ask me, yeah, Scottie would probably be the 156th that I would guess would get arrested. He's just a very soft-spoken, very devout guy on the top of his game. Like, what could he possibly have done to get arrested? The answer is probably nothing. It became very clear pretty quickly that this was more than anything a misunderstanding. People mobilized, got him out of jail, and then actually, he made his tee time. That's another part of this. He shot 66 in a major, no problem. Stretch in the morning in a jail cell, shoot 66. That's incredibly badass. And it was just a totally surreal ordeal. And we'll never know just how much the whole arrest impacted his play that week. He did not play well on Saturday, ended up finishing tied for 8th. But we'll always have that mugshot. We'll always have the memes, which were generational, and we'll always have the memories of golf in 2024. Thank you for watching. Can't wait to do it again in 2025.